You're welcome to today's episode of Wise Attraction. I'm glad that you're able to join us today. Please grab a seat and get comfortable as we delve into the world of teens as it relates to relationships. When it comes to teens and relationships, it's as an adult, it's really easy to just go into the mode of always giving advice, telling them what to do, what not to do, how to date. But in today's episode, we want to hear what are the teens thinking, especially adult teens, older teens, what's on their mind? How do they perceive relationships? When do they think it's appropriate to be in a relationship? I believe that for us to be able to impact the lives of the younger people around us, we need to first understand them. And that's what today's show is all about. If you're a parent of a teen or you have teens in your space that you have the capacity to influence, sit back. You want to stay tuned and hear what they have to say today. And if you're a teen yourself, it will be really nice. I'm sure it will be really nice to hear the perspectives, the experiences, the challenges of other teens and how they're dealing with things. So joining us today is Jola and Rosaline. Good to have both of you on here. Rosaline is currently in her second year of her bachelor's degree. She's studying for music business. She's a singer. She loves to write poetry. She loves reading. She's an entrepreneur. She runs her own business. Wow, well done, Rosaline. Such an impressive bio from you. So, Rosaline, what's the title of your of all the poems you've written? What's been your favorite?
I think Dear Black Girl, that's my favorite poem because it's about me and my experiences of being a black girl in London and how sometimes it's hard, but we have to strive through. So yeah, that's my favorite poem.
Oh, that's so nice. I'd like to read that poem one of these days. Good to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Jola is also in her second year of university. She's studying social policy and enterprise, and she loves drawing. She loves inspiring people. She's the president of the African and Caribbean Society in her university. Jola, it's so good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Really,
so
it's
Jola,
a pleasure.
what would you say inspires your drawings?
Pardon?
What inspires your drawings? What do you like to draw about?
I like drawing illustrations of people. I feel as though that's really fun because I think there's a lot that you can play around with, people's image, what people like, what people don't like, and then drawing it on a piece of paper. I don't know, it's just a nice way to release some creativity out there.
Oh,
that's why I like it.
That's really good. Nice outlets. So today, as both of you already know, we're going to be talking about teens, abstinence, relationships, relationship goals, and really, what I want to do is that I just want to hear from you. We want to know what's really going on in there, the things that you won't usually talk about, of course, as you're comfortable. So personally, as a teen, one thing I noticed is that there was a lot of time on my hands. Even if, of course, there was school, there was uni, there was lots of. So I'm talking about my experience as an older teen, like yourselves. Like when I was 18, 19, I was in uni as well. And I had lots of time on my hands. Even if I was studying and things, there was still time. I joined the dance club in my school. I joined various clubs in my school and I was very active in lots of other things because I had lots of energy. In fact, I was bursting with energy to do so much. And I found that a lot of teens in my space, people that were my age back then, they got into relationships because they felt like they were bored. Like there was nothing to do. Let's just pass the time. Oh, it's so interesting talking to this guy or this girl. And so I just want to get that going. I think both of you gave expressions when I said that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. What went through your mind?
Rosaline, do you want to
go first? Okay, I think that's an expression that people still use to this day. I want to be in a relationship because I'm bored. There's something to do. Right? Like girls, especially I feel like the females love to use that as an excuse as like it does get boring. Uni sometimes does get a bit boring. It gets a bit lonely. So you kind of want to jump into a relationship. But sometimes jumping into a relationship isn't the best thing at all. So
what's the best thing? What's the best thing, Jola? We're going to get to you.
What's the best thing? Oh, go on.
I think for me, spending time with my girls, like I like spending time with my girls, like Angela. Like we have fun a lot. We do like chill together. We end up at each other's accommodations. We talk, we listen to music. We have a very good conversation. So even like going out on like a night out with my girls, like girls' night out, go to a restaurant, we eat, like things like that is what's kind of kept me busy and kept me like happy at uni. So yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Jola, so apart from hanging out with your girls, doing girly stuff, is there any other thing that you feel like people can get engaged in? Because definitely based on the way both of you responded, I could definitely see that this is something that people are still struggling with at this time. You need, as a young person, there's lots of energy. There's lots of, you're bursting with ideas of all manner of things. You need an outlet. So what are the
definitely
young people use instead of going into a relationship?
I feel as though it's good for people to find their niche, find something that they themselves are personally good at, and then just literally delve into that. So I knew from first year that like I liked ACS, I liked the events, I liked the people. I thought, okay, definitely in second year I'm going to get involved in that. So a lot of the time ACS would take up my time. Like I'd go to the event, I'd meet people there, and that way I'm not really thinking, oh yeah, I'm lonely, I should probably go speak to a boy somewhere, that way it's just you're occupied with people and you're also occupied by doing things. So I feel as though if you find yourself that niche that you enjoy and that maybe some other people enjoy, you're not really going to be thinking about like, oh yeah, I'm lonely,
Yeah, that's really good. That's a good point. So based on this, so what do you think is the appropriate age to actually go into a relationship? Because both of you have said no, it's not time when you're 18, 19. So like how
not necessarily. I don't think it's a thing that it just depends on you currently as a person. If you feel as though you're personally ready, obviously your parents and stuff, they'd say after university, that's when you can start looking for a relationship. But realistically, I feel as though once you've got that grounding in your faith and your partner has that same grounding in your faith, and you know that you're not just going into a relationship for the worldly reasons or just because you feel as though yeah it's right or something like that, like there's a purpose for the relationship, then I feel as though like whatever age you think is ready, I don't feel as though you should put an age in it, because there's people that have been together for 19, they're Christians, and then they're married and now they've got like 5 kids. Do you get what I'm saying? It doesn't I don't think age is that much of it shouldn't be that much of a thing.
It really isn't, to be honest. Like I agree with you to some extent, in the sense that there are a minority of people that have actually followed through all the way from very young, and then they get married, they have kids, but then on that long journey, the story within that journey is so long, and there's now anyway, I'm gonna say more about what I have to say after I hear from Rosaline. Rosaline, do you agree?
Yeah, in some sense I do agree, because this was actually a conversation I was having with my mum, I think a couple of days ago. We were talking about getting into a relationship and being in uni and how old like she would like me to be, or how I would want to be like to first get into a relationship. And it's literally what Angela said, you kind of have to find somebody who is grounded in their faith, because it's a thing where you need to be able to know that your faith in like your Christian path, like your faith is already strong before you get into a relationship with somebody else. Because getting into a relationship, you're going to have to support that other person, and that person's going to have to support you, and you can't support them if you can't support yourself. So you have to really think about like, okay, am I stable? Am I like, is everything all right? Do I believe? Like, there's a lot of things you need to think about before getting into a relationship with somebody else, because that's a whole other human being that you now have to kind of look out for, because that's your partner, that's your person. So I think for me personally, I think an age where I'd want to get into a serious relationship is maybe 2021. By then, maybe. Yeah, God willing.
Yeah.
I like the point you raised. You say you need to have a certain level of maturity. A certain level of maturity. So there are certain things that need to be right within you before you go into a relationship. Now, for me personally, the reason why I won't really subscribe to going into a relationship early is because it gives room for a lot of things. When you're in a relationship for a protracted period of time, it's just like, let's say your siblings are home. You have lots of stories. There's lots of offense. There's lots of things that have gone on at home and that will carry on going on for a big number of years. So if you go into a relationship early, your experiencing life with that person. I guess, but the plus side is that both of you are growing together and things like that. But then it gives room for temptation, you know, because there's this whole sexual temptations, and sex is such a big thing. I know it's almost like, why is everyone focusing on this particular issue? Why is everyone focusing on this? On so many things. Why is it this thing that you're screaming about? But the thing is that I don't want to go into talking about preaching here about abstinence, because we're gonna get to that soon. But the thing is, when you go into a relationship too early, you now have more opportunities to fall into this particular sin, especially if both of you are not mature enough by the time you get into that relationship. But then the question I want to ask you guys is, if someone, because I know that you can, like Jola, you said, it can be, don't put an age on it, right? When you feel ready.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I guess maybe I should throw this question at Rosaline. I'll come back to you, Jola. Rosaline, what would be your reason for getting to a relationship at 21?
I'm going to give you the reason my mom always gives me. You need to get married. You need to get married. That's what my mom always says. But I think by 21, in my mind, I pray that I will be mature enough to be in a relationship. So I think by then I finished uni. I'm going to settle down. I should be getting my life together a bit more. So I think my mind will be a bit more mature to then and be open to get into a relationship with somebody.
Okay, so the purpose for that relationship will be to get married. Your goal will be married, not just being in a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jola, you're really nodding. I was going to ask you a question. Because, you know, there's this whole, as a Christian, we're Christians, I'm a Christian here. And the perception is, the sort of idea we promote and we live by is, don't get into a relationship if you're not ready to get married. So if there's someone that's in your space, whatever is happening between both of you, your mind is such that if I'm to get into anything that's deeper than friendship with this person, my goal will be to get married to that person.
Yeah.
Is that both your views?
Mm-hmm. I feel as though the whole like nonchalant dating, me personally, it's not for me. I feel as though being a Christian is one part of it, and then also me as a person, I'm not with the nonchalant dating, because I feel as though you're pouring out a lot of yourself into another person, and for now that person to just kind of leave your life unnecessarily, I just don't think that it's something that I'd want to go through, you know. And I feel as though there's a reason why it's preached in the church, because it saves you from a lot of emotional hurt. Like, you're leaving a lot of emotional hurt aside if you just stay away from reckless dating, you know?
Yes. Sorry, something is rubbing against someone's microphone. Because I'm hearing some creaking sounds. I don't know if you can check if nothing is rubbing against where your sound is coming.
No.
Okay. Yeah, so that's really a good point, because like you say, emotional hurt and things like that. That's why I mean, I like the age 21. 21, like, you're mature, you've gone through your education, you've seen a lot of things, and you've had the opportunity to experience friendship. Because even before you go into a relationship, friendship itself is really, really important in terms of just knowing how to be there for people on a platonic basis, even before you then make that decision to have more. Want more. I don't know, there's some sort of quick sound. I don't know how to resolve that sound. Yeah, Rosen, I think maybe your microphone is moving about. Because when you moved this thing, the sound stopped. Yeah, if you can tighten it a bit. Something is rubbing against something, yeah. Okay, so while Rosie fixes that, so what would you say has been the most helpful piece of advice that you've received about relationships?
Me?
Yeah, Jola.
I'd say for me, it's when I don't know if it's advice or when I came to the understanding that you should not get into a relationship with a man until you see that this man will love you in the same way that Christ loves the church. And obviously, as women, biblically, we're supposed to submit to our partners, submit to our husbands, yeah. So you're not gonna just submit to any man. So I feel as though the best understanding and reality that I came to was when I knew that I'm not gonna submit to a man, and I should not get into a relationship until I see myself that this man loves me the same way that Christ loved the church and was willing to die for the church.
Okay. All right. Roslyn, what's the most helpful piece of advice you feel like you receive when it comes to relationships?
It's kind of the same as Angela. You need to get into a relationship with a man who knows your worth, but you kind of have to know your worth in yourself first. And the most important thing, he needs to be God-fearing. If he's not God-fearing, then especially as a Christian girl, getting into a relationship with somebody who's not God-fearing is very it can kind of have a strain on the relationship, because I believe in God. I know God is my Lord, my Savior, and if he doesn't, then we're not really compatible. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point, actually, because at the end of the day, you need to share the values that there need to be shared values for them, in order to really connect with the person. Otherwise, you find that one person keeps compromising, and by the time you keep compromising, it just messes things up, comes back to emotional hurt and things like that. And you feel like you really can't be yourself, you can't express yourself to your fullest, or you find yourself in a situation where you can't really introduce that person to your community, because you know that the beliefs that you have and your community have, I mean, your parents, your family, your siblings, your friends, your circle, because you know that there will be sort of contrast, and people start saying to you, what are you doing with this person? Stuff like that. So, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes for my next question. I know that I should have been more ready with this. So what sort of questions do you feel like teens have on their minds? Because preparing for this show, I had in my mind that teens, there's no, well, in some sectors and in some places, there's that openness between older teens, younger teens, children, their parents, those that are sort of in leadership positions over them. But I think generally there are some places where there's some things with teens that probably they have questions, but they don't really share. I'll give you an example. Now, one of the questions I asked you, what age is this, what's the best age to get into a relationship? That's a question I had in my mind. And of course, I asked people in my space, and they had different ideas. So I'm just wondering, like, what sort of questions about relationships do you feel like, or yourself as a teen, do you have in your mind, or do you feel like other teens have?
I think a possible question is, why is not marrying so shunned upon?
That's a good question.
Why is not marrying so frowned upon?
Because biblically, Paul chose not to marry because he chose to advance himself in the gospel. And there's instances where people chose not to marry because they wanted to advance themselves and delve into the word more and delve into their ministry more. Like, not marrying is frowned upon. And I don't know if it's a mix between culture and faith, or it's just culturally, as Africans, marriage is something that you should strive to get, yeah.
Really good question.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, because, like you say, really and truly, really and truly, there should be, everyone should have that freedom to choose, whether they want to get married or they don't want to get married. But you see, the thing, I have to be honest with myself as a single person. I was like, Lord Jesus, I'm getting married. Like, I don't want to leave this world without getting married. And my reason for that is that there's all the issues of loneliness and things like that. When you get married, you have a companion. So the thing is that for me, that's a personal thing. It's for me. Do you understand? Although having a companion and things like that shouldn't really be the ultimate reason for getting married. You understand? I'm gonna own up and say that's one of the thoughts I had as a single person, and I said I would not like to not be married. I would not like to live forever as a single person. I desire to be a parent. I desire to be a mom. I desire to get married. I desire to share my life with someone else. You understand? But not everybody has that desire. And so I feel like for society, people that have that desire feel like this is very, very important. They sort of impose on those that don't share the same desires, because when you feel a certain way, you sometimes you assume that everybody feels like that. So for some people, it's hard for them to imagine that there's actually another human being in this world that doesn't want to be married. Do you understand? There's actually another human being in this world that doesn't want to be in a relationship. So, well, being African, being Nigerian, in our culture, there's this whole, in fact, I don't even know, I can't express it with words, how important getting married is from when you're a child. I mean, you guys don't even believe it. When I was really, really small, I had already started writing things down. This is what I want to be. This is what I want to do. You know, to my husband, with my husband, this kind of wife I want to be, this kind of mother I want to be, because that was what was in my space. And you know, the thing with culture, it just carries on from generation to generation, and sometimes you don't question it. So that's a really good question. Thank you for raising that up. Rosaline, what do you have any question in mind?
No, not really. I don't
Okay,
really.
no questions. All right. So I notices. I think yesterday while preparing for this talk, I just Googled stuff about teens and relationships. And I saw that there were lots of chat rooms, and teen online dating and stuff like that. And it was really, really scary because I, I felt like, oh my gosh, like if this thing is really happening online, it's another whole new world. I mean, someone can go into this chat room pretending to be a young person, you know, pretending to be a teen like you, and then another teenager meets person, they go into whatever online relationship, and eventually when they meet you realize that this person is an old person that just pretended to be young, you know. So what do you think? Do you think that online dating, meeting people online, is something that lots of teens are doing these days? And what's your perception of that?
I think like a lot of people are doing online dating and all this stuff. I think, especially in university, like it's a
Sorry?
it's a very popular thing in university.
Okay.
Like they do it a lot. They do it a lot in uni. I personally don't think it's the best thing, because you never know who you're talking to. You never know if this person is okay, like in the mind. They could be crazy for you know, and you're talking to them. So sometimes it can be a very scary place to be in. So not a fan.
Yeah, Jola, what do you think is like, as you said, I really don't think it's safe. Jola, what's your perception of online dating for teens? I mean, so why do you think that teens would gravitate towards finding someone online as opposed to finding someone within their space?
Just to clarify, when you mean online dating, do you mean platforms specifically for dating, like Tinder, things like that?
I mean,
Or do you mean,
it could be
okay,
Tinder, it could be meeting someone on Facebook, it could be Twitter, YouTube, like anywhere that you didn't meet the person in person. Do you understand? You didn't meet the person.
yeah. I feel as though there's a lot of dangers with it, because like you guys said, you don't always know the person that you're speaking to. And I feel as though because we've been ingrained, because we're the like social media generation, because we've been ingrained with that, be careful who you're talking to online because you don't know who you're talking to. There's a lot of telltale signs to spot a catfish. So I feel as though it now comes down to the person if you want to fall for that or not. Like if you're speaking to somebody on say Instagram, and you see that there's a lack of followers, you see that they don't have any pictures, or you see that the pictures look like it's from a celebrity, these are telltale signs that it's a catfish now. So I think when people are smart with it, because you see a lot of stories that, oh yeah, I met my husband on Twitter, or I met my husband on Facebook. So there's that small minority that does work, but I feel as though the dangers do sometimes kind of outweigh the benefits of it, because people can't always spot the issues in people's accounts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, Jola, do you know what? There's a sound coming, and I think that it might be from your ear. Should we test that?
Really?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but it's still on, so it's definitely not from your earpiece. Okay, but can you hear the sound, or is it just me hearing?
I can
Yeah,
hear it.
I can hear the sound too, but I can't think of where it would be from.
I don't
It's
have
not
anything.
from
It's
me.
definitely not from your earpiece. Yeah, it's definitely not from there.
No.
So, all right, moving on. So, in terms of getting married now, what do you think is the best age, or for yourself, what's your desire in terms of what would you think would be the ideal age for getting married? Now, before you guys answer that question, I just need to let you know that I also desire to get married at the age of 25, but 25 came and went. So, so it's good to desire. Please say your desires, but just know that sometimes the way life goes, things end up different. And even when 25 came and left, I wasn't sad because at 25 I reflected on my life and I felt like at that point I wasn't ready to be married. So it was all good and well. Even if I had the desire to be married, I realized I wasn't quite ready to be married. So what sort of age did you guys have in mind to say, oh, let's get married at this age?
We have the same age.
Oh gosh, you guys have talked a lot about it. I can imagine when you guys do stuff, you'll be like, oh, this relationship, that relationship. That's the main thing you guys talk about.
Do we, Rosalind?
I don't know.
Okay, so what's the age?
24.
God.
24. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you guys think of abstinence? I mean, there's this whole thing of everyone. I mean, we did mention before of the best way to get married. And one of the reasons I did why I'd rather people delay getting married is delay going to a relationship from too young is that if you get into a relationship too young, you give yourself opportunity to fall into sexual sin, because you continue growing your intimacy with that person. You end up doing so much with that person. Well, there's some people that actually go into relationships very young and end up maintaining their abstinence. Well done to those people. I really admire them. But it is most likely that you end up making that decision at some point if that relationship is too long. So, what do you guys think of abstinence? I'm going to explain what I mean by abstinence. Abstinence is simply saving things for marriage. So, I want to know, what do you think about, what are your views of abstinence? Rosaline?
I'm for it. I'm for it. I know from when I was young, my mom was always drilled it into my mind. No sex before marriage, no sex before, literally from when I was small. So it's something, not even just because my mom has told me, it's just me and myself. I know that I wouldn't be ready until I'm married, because then I know that we're bound together and we're now one person. So and okay, we are for each other and for each other only. If it was to happen before then it's kind of a thing where there's so many people, like other things that have happened before. So while you're in your marriage, it can complicate things. Like there's so many things running through my mind when it comes to sex before marriage, and that's why I choose to not do it.
Yeah, so it says so many things running through your mind. Lots of other people are listening to this, and whatever it is you have to say can definitely help someone out there. So, what are the things running through your mind when you think of sex before marriage?
There's this one thing my mom always said to me, and it's funny because it's quite scary. She always says that if, say, you do have sex before marriage, every person you've had sex with before, they're gonna be on your. That's like a soul tie between each and every one of those people. You're tying your soul to each and every one of those people. And now when it does come to you being married and having sex with your husband, God forbid, I really forbid this for anyone, but say it's not as good as all the people before him, you're gonna have that on your mind, replaying constantly. That's gonna be something that you're always thinking about. Oh, it's not as good as Tom, Dick, and Harry, and that's not something that I want to go through. I don't want to be able to sit and think, wait, huh? Why is it not as good as this or this or this? I don't want to compare my husband to anybody else, because I want it to be a thing where it's just me and him and only me and him, because it can complicate a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can complicate a lot of things.
That's a really good point, Rosaline. So, like, because sometimes there's also now the view of people saying, "Well, if you haven't experienced it with this person, how are you sure they're gonna be good?" You know, there's this misconception. I personally, I think it's a misconception of sex that people have in the sense that, okay, why are you gonna buy a car if you don't test drive it first? You know, so is sex one of those things? And Bola, what do you think about that perspective that people tend to have? I mean, Rosalie, what you said is really, I definitely agree with you. You don't want to have that sort of comparison in your mind. You want to
Yeah.
be in the present and in the now when you are with your husband. So that's really, really good. And gosh, I admire your mom already. She's really done a great job. So, Bola, what do you think in terms of the perception of that people have that how do you know this person is gonna be good if you don't check it?
I feel as though it's a big misconception because I think people sometimes forget, obviously, as Christians, it's a battle between the spirit and the flesh. Like, you're not trying to subdue yourself to the flesh, but at the same, yeah, you're not trying to subdue yourself to the flesh. You're trying to be guided by the spirit. So if you're now saying that, how can you drive a car? How do you know if the car is good before you test drive it? That type of thing. It's kind of like saying that you need to allow your flesh to win before you know what's going to be good for you, which is wrong as Christians, obviously. And I feel as though as believers, it's easy to listen to the world, so it's easy to think that, yeah, this is the right way to think because everybody thinks like that. So that's why I think it's a big misconception, because I know believers that think the same thing, that like it's okay to do that because you don't know if it's going to be all right for you in the future. You don't know if you don't know if you guys are going to be compatible in that sort of aspect, but I do think it's a misconception because it's what the world is telling you. It's not even biblically accurate.
Yeah. All right. Do you know? I think we should really try and identify where that noise is coming from, because otherwise this video is going to have to work for anyone that's watching now or later. So, because my video, my camera is free of anything moving around. So, is there anything moving around with both of you?
Rosaline, mute your mic 1 second.
Move it.
Mute it.
Okay, let me mute.
Yeah, it's Rosalind.
Oh, Rosin.
I can still hear it after I've muted.
Oh, yeah. So it's coming from you.
Is it my phone case?
Maybe, but I think maybe something's moving.
Oh no.
Okay, we're just gonna let Rosaline see if she can resolve the sound, and we'll come when she comes in. Of course, we're gonna let her back in.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's try. She's back. Oh, the sound is still there.
My phone must be back. Wait.
Maybe it's something to do with your speaker.
Okay, so Jola, while we we know Rosalind's gonna come back. So when in terms of if someone decides, for instance, as a young person, it cannot be easy to make a decision to abstain, to save sex for marriage. So what sort of challenges would you say that you yourself have faced and possibly other teams within your space are facing in terms of when they decide to save sex for marriage?
I think an issue people could have faced is that if you feel as though you want to get to know a boy or something like that, and they don't have that same perspective as you, they're kind of like, why are you waiting until married? How come you've got this perspective? Like, why don't you want to do it? It now makes you question, like, okay, is this really the right thing that I should be doing? Obviously, I haven't really questioned it before because, like Rosalind said, from young in the church, your parents, they teach you don't do this, and when you grow older you understand why it is like a biblical principle, because from that you can now, like Rosalind's mom said, you can attach yourself to soul ties, you can get diseases, you can be like, a lot of negative things happen from having premarital sex. So I just feel as though once you have that in your mind, like having those negative perceptions of people, especially boys, because a lot of boys, this is what I was saying to you earlier, as Christians, especially from our age, there's more Christian women than there are men. Like from our age and from what we've seen, like in uni, the amount of girls that I see go to church compared to the amount of boys that I see go to church is just, the disparity is ridiculous. But because more boys who come from Christian homes still want to be active in that sort of aspect, it now relays back onto the Christian girls, because it's like, you're saying that you want to marry a Christian girl, but when you're doing all of this, you still want to be active in this sort of aspect. So I think that's a big temptation, because Christian girls, although they have that grounding, they're now, they're now being sort of how do I explain it now? Tempted by Christian guys, even though they know that that's not what they've been taught. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Welcome back, Rosaline. Jola was just telling us about some of the challenges that you, as a team that has decided to save sex for marriage, can face in university or wherever you find yourself. And one of the things she said is there's a disparity between the number of Christian girls. Anyway, to cut it short, from what you said, it sounds like Christian girls tend to go to church more, imbibe those values a lot more than Christian teen boys. And so you might find a Christian teen male, but his values are very different from yours. Jola, did I say that correctly? We seem to have lost Jola. Rosaline, what do you think of that view?
I think she's right. She's completely right, because there are so many I know a lot of male Christians who, majority of them are not virgins anymore. They're not. They decided they didn't want to save sex for marriage. So it's difficult, because there's a vast majority of us. Like, there's not like a lot of us. So when it does come to having conversations like this, a lot of them don't say anything, or they're silent, because they know that they don't like follow the rules, if you can say that. Jola?
Yeah,
Jola is still a bit
okay.
Oh yeah, it's better. We have you back now.
No, what I was trying to say was that, like, you know, with a lot of these Christian boys, it's like, it's a thing of that they're Christian and stuff, but upholding them same morals. Like, why is it that I'm telling you I'm not having sex before marriage and you're looking at me funny? Like, there's a lot of, you meet a lot of guys like that in uni. You're laughing because it's true. You meet loads of guys like that in uni. It's crazy. Like, your parents will be so involved in the church. You yourself will be so involved in the church, and all of a sudden, when I'm telling you church principles and I'm telling you biblical principles, you're looking at me funny. It's a very bad thing, in my opinion. Like, and it's strange. I don't get why it's mainly boys that. To be fair, I think it's also a societal thing. But
definitely.
Yeah. I definitely get your point. I mean, even with adult guys and things like that, like you said, Jola, you go to the church, you see a lot more women there. You see, sometimes it's really easy. You can have like 10, 15 Christian female friends, and then you know lots of guys in your space, but only a few of them really share the values that you share, which is an interesting thing in itself that I myself do not really understand. But maybe on this show we're gonna explore that topic. Maybe I'm gonna invite some guys to come on, some Christian guys to come on and tell us what they think.
Baby, I can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong with my mic. I can't hear you.
Jola, you can't
hear me. I can hear you, but Jola says she can't hear you. Wait, can you hear
Jola,
me?
it might be to do with
I can hear you, Rosaline.
But you can't hear me.
Oh no.
Wait, try leaving and then coming back.
All right. So many glitches today. Thank God we're still able to carry on with the show. So I just wanted to find out, like, so because my assumption as well, I had lots of assumptions during this show, honestly. So it's really good that I'm talking to you guys. Another assumption I had preparing for this show is that it's also easy to have peer pressure. What do you do with peer pressure? I know there's the whole pressure with a guy that you think is a Christian, but then his behavior doesn't really reflect what he calls himself. What about your peers, your friends? Is there any pressure coming from there?
I think for me, there isn't any pressure coming from any of my, I would say, mostly my female friends, maybe because we're all like we're Christian girls, so we're kind of on the same path. So we all know that, okay, cool, this is what's wrong and this is what's right. And I know Angela. So Angela, she's talked me out of a lot of things. I can't lie. She has talked she's talked me out of a lot of things. Like she's been very, 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 very helpful when it comes to things like situations like this. Because I would think one thing and I wasn't sure. She would kind of explain to me, give me a couple of scriptures, Bible, do a couple Bible preaching. So, so I think from my female friends, there's not a lot of pressure there, but when it comes to the other side, there's a bit of pressure there.
That's really
Different
in terms of
pressure.
female friends. That means what I'm hearing from you is that one of the ways to maintain your decision is to keep friends that share your values. You
Yes,
definitely have to make sure that
100%.
the friends you're rolling with share your values, and that when you have thoughts that are not in line with those values, you share the thoughts with them as well. Because if you don't share with them, that's one of the opportunity to talk you out of whatever it is that she feels isn't in line with the Bible and any other of your friends. So that's really good in terms of sharing. What other thing do you think, Jola, that you can do to maintain the decision to abstain?
I think besides going for a person that is also abstaining, renewing your mind to understand why you want to abstain. I feel as though some people kind of look past that as a thing to do when you're abstaining. Like I think it's Romans 12:2 that says that we should daily be transformed with the renewal of our mind into understanding that who we are in Christ. So I think that every day, or if you're faced with a tempting situation, understand that, cool, this is not of God. I've already overcome this lustful thought. I don't need to succumb to the flesh. I'm of spirit. Things like that, to renew your mind, to understand that there's a reason why I'm choosing to abstain. Therefore, I'm going to carry out this abstinence and make myself happy and make the Lord happy with me. I think that's a underrated thing that people should do when abstaining. You're not just gonna like say I'm not doing anything and then not actively renew your mind to understand why you're not doing anything.
Okay. All right. That's really good. So renewing your mind, keeping friends that share your values. But what about the pressure from guys? What would you say? So for instance, there's this teen girl that has decided that she's going to stay sex for marriage, and then she meets this guy. From my belief is that you're more likely to get tempted from your blind side. And what I mean by your blind side when it comes to relationships is that you meet this person, you assume that you guys go to the same church, he's saved or whatever, and so you feel like automatically in your mind he shares the same values, and so you don't really assess him properly, or you don't really value him for who he is or what he is. For instance, if you have met someone in the world, you just automatically know, like someone that's not saved that you know is not saved, you automatically know this guy is not saved, he's gonna want this, he's gonna want that, and your guards are up. But when you meet someone that's meant to be in church, meant to share your values, you sort of turn down your guard. There's this trust you have. You feel like, okay, we go to church, we do this, we do that. So what sort of advice would you have for, let's say, a teen girl or a teen guy that is getting pressure from someone in the opposite sex? How do you overcome that sort of pressure? Jola, is the question clear?
Yeah, the question's clear. I was just gonna say, on this topic of Christian guys in the church versus guys of the world, I would just say my advice to anybody is that don't drop your standard or drop your requirements just because they're in the church. Like you going to the church, unless you're born again, it does not make you a Christian just because you go to the church. Like you need to be born again to call yourself a Christian. You need to uphold them values. And I just feel as though it's very easy now for people to get blind themselves because, oh yeah, I met him in the church, but really and truly, you could have met nicer people that were outside of the church and that were maybe even believers. Like, altogether, what I'm saying is that just because if someone's in the church does not mean that they may be compatible with you, or does not mean that they even uphold Christian values. Like, that one I don't like it because there's Rosin, am I correct here? There's loads of guys that you meet in the church that they're not where their hearts are. It wouldn't even benefit you getting into relationship with them because, like I said before, you need to find someone that loves you the way that Christ loves the church. A lot of guys, especially our age, they're not like that yet.
Yeah.
They're not like that yet.
That's really good. So you have to value every guy, you have to value them the same. Each guy needs to prove themselves, they need to prove their values, they need to prove where their heart is for you to know and understand before making that decision to go into a relationship with them. So Rosie, what do you think? So Jola, you do make a good point. Value everybody the same. Rosie, do you have any other strategies or advice for any girl that's listening, that's facing pressure from the guy to have sex basically?
You should never ever let anyone pressure you, because when you do get pressured and that thing does happen, you're not going to feel good about yourself. You won't. You're gonna feel very rotten. Like I have a lot of older females in my life who have told me that you should never ever let a male pressure you, because later when you're not gonna like the way you feel. It's not gonna feel great. So when it does come to somebody, even if you think he's this, he's that, he's God fearing, he's good looking, it doesn't matter. Don't let him pressure you. You need to leave that situation, because
Especially if he's in the church. If a boy in the
Yes.
church is now pressuring
Yes.
you, it's complete polar opposites. You should not be in the church and now pressuring somebody for sexual activities. Polar opposites, like it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. If they continue to pressure you, you need to leave that situation, because it's not going to stop. They're going to continue to pressure you. They're going to continue to ask you for those things that you are not comfortable giving up. So you need to remove yourself from that situation as quickly as possible, because it's not going to end up in.
Essentially, you're saying end the relationship.
Yes, and
End that.
Even the friendship,
Yeah,
everything.
there's no point.
All right. So let's say, sorry.
No, that's it.
Okay. So if there's, let's say someone that's watching now, this is a very random question that just came to mind. I'm gonna ask it to both of you. If there's someone watching now that has gone into a relationship and they initially they were like, oh no, I'm not going to marriage, but then they've given into the pressure and stuff like that. How, as a teen, as a young person, what's your advice to that person in terms of, let's say they're feeling guilty, they're feeling bad about all these things that they've gone into. So what would you say to them?
I would say personally, that obviously as Christians, number one, go back to the Lord about it, speak to the Lord about it, and just remember that Romans 8:1 says that there's therefore now no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. Like, remove yourself from that guilt. Guilt is of the devil. Like, it's not a Christian feeling. We shouldn't ever feel guilty because Christ has freed us from sin. So I'd say pray that the Spirit alleviates you from that guilt, number one. And then number two, I think talk about it to somebody, because I think it's a lot better when you release your feelings to another person, like another like-minded Christian, you know. But I definitely say that you number one, go to the Lord about it. Number two, pray that you're free from that guilt, because like I said, there's therefore now no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. Oh no. And then after that, I just say that you just speak to somebody. You just speak to somebody about it. I'm charging my phone whilst I'm on this thing because I don't want my battery to die, and that's why my phone keeps knocking down. Don't mind me.
All right, that's fine. Rosie, what do you have to say to that?
I completely agree with Angela. I think, especially, this is for females and males. I think you should always have somebody who is older than you, but not too older, who you feel comfortable talking to. First of all,
Definitely.
I think some of the girls that I talk to are maybe 20, 23, 24, around those ages. So they're very easy to talk to, because those are the type of people that you want to talk to. You don't want to talk to, I'm sorry to say, but you don't want to talk to the aunties and the mums, because you know they're gonna judge you. You know it's the truth. They're going to look down on you and they're going to be like, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. But whereas somebody who is just a bit older than you, they can explain to you how you can get around. They will be there for you. It's like having a
What
big
about your
sister.
mum?
I mean, I think my mum is very, I don't know, because some mums aren't easy to talk to. My mum is
That's true.
very easy to talk to. because she's funny. My mum is like me.
Yeah.
She's very easygoing, very jolly. She's a very nice lady. So talking to my mum about things like this is easy. Even though sometimes she feels a bit uncomfortable about it, I think the fact that I've grown up as well, she's found it a lot easier to talk to me about it. So I always have somebody to talk. And another thing is literally like Angela said, is what's done is done. You can't feel guilty about it anymore because you can't take it back, babe. Like it's actually done now. So you need to literally renew your mind, renew your spirit, go back to the word and just speak to somebody, because if you don't speak to somebody, it can slowly start to hurt you, and it can start to kind of
100%. Yeah.
lower your mental state, and it can take you to a place that you don't want to be in. So if there's somebody you know that you can talk to that's older that can give you good advice, go and speak to that person, because it's literally the best thing to do.
Yeah, and then there's that risk of carrying on, of doing it again because you haven't really dealt with it properly. Just carry on doing the wrong thing. But then if you speak to someone, then you get the help you need to come out of that situation. So it's been really nice talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show. Lots of wisdom coming from you. I just hope that young people will listen to this and definitely make it, for those that need to make a change, make a change. For those that need to carry on and soldier on, know that there are other young people as well that share the same values that we have. I hope that we're gonna that this will be inspirational. I mean, one thing I've definitely learned is that the need to be open and accessible as an older person, because you don't want a situation where the younger people in your space, they don't want to talk to you because they're like, these are,
Yeah.
so it's not gonna come down to my level to try to understand. It's just all about why did you do that? Thank me on the head and all of that. Yeah, so that definitely is not the best response. Mommies, daddies, leaders, aunties listening, if you're listening, one of the things to take note of is be open, be accessible, be one of those people that someone that's younger in your space can definitely talk to if they're going to try not to overreact. Thank you, girl, for coming on. One last, both of you, I'll start with Jola, then I'll go to Rosaline. Final words for our listeners.
I'd say just walk in the spirit, understand your identity as a believer, because that's who you are above anything else. You're a child of God. So I feel as though understand your identity as a believer and look to God as your father, as your dad. Like once you do that, and once you understand that, okay, this is who I am, all the things of the world, it kind of just fades away because you're just encompassed with the knowledge that I'm actually not of this world, like I'm of my father. That's what I'd say. Just try and walk in the spirit as much as you can and speak to people. Yeah.
Thank you, Jola. Rosaline, what would be your final words?
I think for me personally, to you guys, kind of, especially from people who are in uni or who are going to uni, like especially the young ones who are going into first year, find yourself. Don't force anything. Take it easy. Take it slow. And for all my Christians out there, especially going to uni as well, don't feel pressured, because this is something that I know I was kind of pressured to do. Don't feel pressured to find a church straight away. I get it.
Definitely.
You want to get into church, find church, but you have to
There
find
are
a church
false prophets out there.
that suits you. Yeah. Yes, there are false. You have to find a church that suits you, that understands you, and kind of don't I don't know.
And you know what? Also, friendship groups. Don't force yourself and rush into friendship groups. I didn't have a friendship group for months. I was just there doing singles with friends, and it's just like I saw people that were in friendship groups. They all fell apart. I saw people that they just changed. Like, don't rush into friendship groups. Like, just pray, trust the Lord. Like, me and Rosalind, we found each other late in the year. We found each other late in the year, but we're both in Leeds, but she goes a different uni.
Okay, you guys both go to school, uni.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought you said London. I don't know why I think I missed it.
I live in London.
Oh, you live in
London?
London?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Maybe we might have you back on the show, maybe with some more of your friends, to talk a bit more about being a young Christian in uni, living for the world, and of course, succeeding with academics. And Rosie, well done for your business. Keep pushing it. Jola, well done for being the president of your association.
Thank you.
Maintaining your faith. Thanks for coming on. To our viewers
Thank
and
you so much, Vivi.
joining us for another show. Once again, please stay tuned because next week we're going to have another interesting chat with millennials, single millennials. What's going on? We want to know. So we're going to have another contact next week. Please join us once again. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.